perfection. And his teachings now had a great influence on a man by the name of Jerome, who was the translator of the Roman Catholic Latin Vulgate Bible. Now, the disciple that followed Origen was a fellow by the name of Eusebius, and Eusebius was a devotee of Origen, and he lived at the time of Constantine the Great. And Eusebius went and collected 800 of these corrupted manuscripts of Origen's, his letters, and he used Origen's hexapla, which was a 6-column Bible that he had prepared, in all of his teachings and works. And with the help of a fellow by the name of Pamphilus, Eusebius restored and preserved Origen's original library, so that these corrupt manuscripts were all there collected. Thus, when Constantine the Great made his professed conversion to Christianity, he found waiting for him 3 different types of manuscripts: the Textus Receptus, the Palestinian, and the Egyptian of Eusebius. And the Eusebio-Origen manuscripts, or the Palestinian, was the product now of the intermingling of pagan philosophy and the Word of God. And so you can imagine which one that this pagan ruler would have chosen. And so Constantine preferred the one written by Origen and edited by Eusebius and Pamphilus, and he ordered 50 Bibles to be produced. Now, these 50 Bibles are something that many people have never heard of. Many of you out there have heard of Constantine's Sunday Law. But just as deadly as his Sunday Law, if not perhaps more so, was Constantine's Bibles. And many scholars today believe that these manuscripts of the Vaticanus and the Sinaiticus are in reality 2 of those 50 Bibles of Constantine. You see, the Bibles that he had printed required 600 antelope skins for each Bible. It required someone with a lot of wealth and authority to put it together. And so many believe that Constantine had Eusebius do those Bibles for him, and that those 2, the Sinaiticus and the Vaticanus, are simply 2 of those corrupted ones. It is very well known that the Sinaiticus was in Caesarea at that time, and it's even got autographs inside of it about Pamphilus, and he states in there that he, did this work, and he made some various changes in it, and he edited it, and this type of thing. So that is even written within the manuscript itself. Thus we see that the Sinaiticus dates from the time of Pamphilus, or a co-worker of Eusebius, who did those 50 Bibles for Constantine. And he did it all using the hexapla of the great apostate Origen himself. These papal manuscripts, my friends, have created a real problem for us today, because they have been the basis for nearly every modern translation that has been released since back at the time of Westcott and Hort at the end of the last century. You see, Constantine's Bible flourished for only about 1 generation, and then it just disappeared from existence as if struck by a withering blast. However, about 50 years after that Bible of Constantine's, Jerome was then called upon to make the translation of the Latin Vulgate. Pope Damascus asked Jerome to go to the library of Eusebius there in Caesarea, where he had access to all of the works of Justin Martyr and Tatian and Clement and Origen, and there to prepare the Latin Vulgate Bible. Now, Jerome himself, as he went to work on this project, did not believe that the Apocrypha belonged in the Bible. But he included it in his Bible nonetheless, showing us what great authority he considered the papacy to have, that he would put in a Bible that which he did not believe went there, simply because the church told him to do it. Now, the 7 books of the Apocrypha are interesting books, and they were not accepted by Christians at all, or at least not officially by even the Catholics, until it came to the time of the Council of Trent, 1,100 years after Jerome's translation there. And there at the Council of Trent, the Catholic Church then declared that they were part of the Scriptures and pronounced a curse on anyone who would not accept them as such. And so neither the apostles nor the early Christians or the reformers or the people who did the King James Version, none of them accepted these books, because not only because of the unbiblical sounds to them, but they also were not in harmony with any of the other 66 books of the Bible. But it was put in Jerome's Latin Vulgate, and it took nearly 900 years before people would even refer to his as the Vulgate, which simply means the common Bible. It was not the Bible in common usage until 900 years after it was put out. That's how opposed the church was to it. But since they use these corrupted manuscripts in their translation, well, then we find that the Latin Vulgate is filled with thousands of errors, which even Catholic scholars of great reputation have pointed out. For example, in Fulke's renowned works, I want to share with you something that he says here. He says, Cassiodorus Clarius, giving a reason of his purpose in castigation of the said vulgar Latin translation, confesses that it was full of errors almost innumerable, which if he should have reformed all according to the Hebrew verity, he could not have set forth the vulgar edition as his purpose was. Therefore, in many places he retaineth the accustomed translation, but in his annotations admonisheth the reader how it is in the Hebrew, and notwithstanding this moderation, he acknowledgeth that about 8,000 places are by him so noted and corrected. Now, friends, these statements present a real problem for Protestants, for those who not only accept and use these modern translations, but for those who also promote them as the best and most accurate, when in reality they are nothing more than modern English renderings of the old corrupted Latin Vulgate. Today, my friends, we seem to be more and more eager to accept these modern translations and these corrupted manuscripts from which they are translated, and choose translations of the Bible based on nothing more than a personal preference or an unquestioned recommendation by someone that we hold in esteem. But we've got to be careful and realize that there are corruptions that have come down through the centuries to us today. And a full century before the Sinaiticus and the Vaticanus ever saw the light of day, while they were still gathering dust in the monasteries, the history reveals that the received text was being used by God's people throughout the Greek Empire, in Syria, in the Italic churches of northern Italy, in the Gallic churches of southern France, and the Celtic churches of England and Great Britain, and the pre-Waldensian and Waldensian churches of Europe. When the Catholic Church, my friend, entered these areas centuries later, they found the people there were using the received text, and it was not without great difficulty that they were able to replace it with their corrupted Vulgate of Jerome. In a book entitled The Great Controversy, there's a statement there that is so powerful that shows what was going on in these developing years, and I want to share this with you. It says that the Waldenses were among the first of the peoples of Europe to obtain a translation of the Holy Scriptures. Hundreds of years before the Reformation, they possessed the Bible in manuscript in their native tongue. They had the truth. Now notice this, friends. They had the truth unadulterated, and this rendered them the special objects of hatred and persecution. Here, for 1,000 years, witnesses for the truth maintained the ancient faith. They were employed also in copying the Scriptures. Some manuscripts contained the whole Bible, others only brief selections. Thus were brought forth the treasures of truth so long concealed by those who sought to exalt themselves above God.